I wanted to talk with you about how I think about marketing blog posts and in general ideas. I found this blog post from Hacker News. It was a really good overview on how to join a team and how to learn a code base. Some really good writing and good suggestions. And I found the author's tweet, Samuel Taylor. This is his original tweet about it. And it's like, okay, it's got 3 retweets and 5 likes. And then my version of it today, as of 8 hours ago, got 37 retweets and 137 likes. So about 25 times the number of readership if you count everything linearly. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how to think about this stuff, because obviously a lot of developers and a lot of writers will put a lot of effort into the core content, but then not think so much about the marketing of it. And this is actually a really good blog post in itself because it's already got some structure to it, right? First, second, third. So there's some markers for the content, but I think there's some amount of irreducible complexity when it just comes to words, and sometimes you just have to simplify with an image. And I think a lot about what I learned from the How to Visualize Value course from Jack Butcher, where he does a lot of condensing things into imagery. Obviously, I don't take this literally because some things, especially to do with code, are very hard to visualize, and he only does visuals basically as a designer. But you can obviously work a lot harder, and I just didn't have that time, and I don't think you should as well. Some people take about 20% of their time to do marketing stuff like titles, thumbnails, visuals and images and social media. Maybe that's right for you, maybe less, but I do think that not that many people have that much time. So for me, I just had about 10 to 15 minutes to write this down. So this is what I did. I just did a bunch of bullet points and I just arranged them into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 points in an image. And that was a lot more accessible to readers. So it's really about the structure. But the other tip that I would say is also in the text, where you don't summarize just some bullet points, but you also have to have some kind of positive excitement. Obviously, using emojis is a way that a lot of people cheat, because it's a nice shorthand to convey emotion, but it can be overused. But just general enthusiasm is underrated for your own work. The big picture I want to show you of what we're doing over here is really just practicing how to market your ideas. I wrote about this in an essay, and I also obviously did the exact same thing with boxes. Very, very simplistic stuff. I have no artistic skill whatsoever, but just the effort put in makes the content get read by a lot more people, obviously. So it's worth it if you can spare like the 5 to 10 minutes, making this kind of stuff. And at the end of the post, I actually say, like, if you want to get good at marketing, you don't have to create the content and then market the content. You can just market other people's content. So I think that's a really underrated hack for practicing marketing. So the other thing that I should point out is that this is not just about marketing. It's also about learning the content better. And this is an idea that I came across called the generation effect. I didn't know there was a name for it. I just learned about it from Anne-Laure Leconf. And basically, it's this idea that if you struggle and state content in your own words, you have a higher chance of retaining it. Super obvious, but now there's a name for it, and now you know. And I think that's the last point that I want to say. There's a lot of Hacker News attitudes that kind of go like this. I read this article, all of it's true. To me, this article mostly reads like water is wet, which is a way of saying that it's just super obvious to him and it doesn't bear writing down. But it's probably not true, because Hacker News upvoted it 228 times. And I think that's a fundamental curse of knowledge, that what seems obvious to you may not seem obvious to beginners. But also just like obvious things well stated have value in and of themselves. And I think the mental model that I use to really discuss this is the idea of tacit knowledge versus explicit knowledge. Explicit knowledge is everything that is found in textbooks and courses and stuff like that. And tacit knowledge is the stuff that you learn on the job. And there's the question of how much can you write down and how much can you just have to experience it to get through it. But I think a lot of tacit knowledge is actually just stuff that people haven't bothered to write down. And that stuff, because experience is really valuable, that stuff is condensed experience. That's the stuff that you should write down. Do I think that you should do this for every blog post? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on your time and what kind of ideas you're excited about. But I do think that you should do it consistently so that you build a reputation and a network. And this is a muscle that you can exercise to get stronger and stronger every time. And so it gets easier and easier every time so you can compound your efforts in marketing your ideas.